How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. I hope you enjoy yourself. Welcome to this small little part of my internet. This video is going to be about the PTR, important information about the PTR, as well as the patch details and my first impressions upon them. So I'm not going to go over absolutely everything. We've got a list here. I'll put the link in the description. This might not be everything, but this is everything the community have found so far. But the first important piece of information is that we should be getting this PTR until February 5th. So it's about 5 days, which I think is a really nice amount of time, not too short, not too long. And I'm hoping CD Projekt Red take a couple of days to look at our feedback and tweak certain things in case we found anything particularly strong or massively powerful or anything like that, you know, or any bugs, like Savage Bear, for instance, just crashes the game. So fix that, please. So that's the first important piece of information until February 5th. The next, we've got some changes in the game, and there's quite a lot of changes. Now, I'm going to go over some sweeping ones, which I think will make a big impact, and the main ones that you want to know about. So the first one is card advantage spies. So it's starting to look like Summoning Circle in the future will not be able to copy card advantage spies, or if it can, it's a wholly bad thing to do, because you won't get the card advantage for it. And the reason for this is that the card advantage spies have a timer on them of 1, which is strange because they are disloyal, but you'll play it on the opponent's side of the board, and then when it's their turn, it'll trigger straight away and go down to 0. And this works very similar to the way the Ocvis works. After his timer reaches 0 and his ability is activated, you can't actually utilize that ability anymore. So what this means for card advantage spies are, when their timers reach 0, which is instantly, you can't decoy them. You can't Emir Vitamin to pick them up and replay them. Basically, you can't replay them in any way, which I think sounds really good, because it means that if I took the effort to put a card advantage spy in my deck, my opponent can't just, you know, see that I've done it and then counter it. It means that I've put it in my deck, I've decided that's a good thing, and it'll obviously stop this issue with loads and loads of spies being played. So this is definitely the best way forward, I think. Without removing card advantage spies, I think they do need to be in the game. It's an important tactic to the game. At the minute they go into the graveyard, they do have an error tag, so maybe that's just the doomed tag gone wrong. But if they do go into the graveyard, it means that it's a decent buff for ghouls as well, because they've got a nice target to munch, or an owl ghoul, for instance. But yeah, that is looking pretty cool. That the next is the changes to names. This is really not going to make a massive impact, but it really makes us feel as a community and as players just really a lot more immersed. Things have their full names now, or most of them do, you know. They've really gone back into the flavour of names, and they've even actually pushed it even further. So we're back to having Triss Marigold, we're back to having Mardrum instead of Mushroom, and stuff like that. Stammelford's Tremors rather than just Tremors. And they've even gone even further. Instead of Iris, we've now got Iris von Everec and Olgierd von Everec and Eredin Break Glass, and you know, they've really pushed the boat out on all these names, and it feels good. It feels really nice to be back with the proper lore-y characters. I'm really happy about that change. I think a lot of people are. Even though it's a very superficial thing, these are the things that make people feel at home when you play, I think. The things that you want to know about are dwarves, right? So dwarves have been hit with the nerf stick quite a bit. So the skirmishers, they now boost for 3. Instead, Ithleen hasn't changed, but the Tremors now no longer spawns a lesser golem, so it's a little bit weaker. We've also saw Yorveth Meditation. Still makes 2 enemies attack each other, but they have to be on the same row. So now it's possible to try and avoid that as the opponent now. The nice thing to do, put your 2 big units on different roads if possible. Okay, so the dwarven people have seen a bit of a nerf there, so hopefully they're not too crazy. Now the next thing is Ciri Nova. This was 25 and is now 22, so it's not as high as it used to be. 22 is still decently high, and people in the community at the minute are thinking that this could either be a buff or a nerf, and there's going back and forth. The buff part of it is that it's now underneath Geralt Igni. You can't counter this card with Geralt Igni anymore if it's alone on the row. That's quite a big buff, really. I mean, you're going to have to go for Scorch instead, but then you don't get any points on the board yourself, so it will end up in a draw in a 1v1. So it's a big deal, but You've lowered it down to 22. 22 is still very high. There's not many cards that are going to be able to get over 22 very easily. So Serie Nova's in a different place. We'll have to see how that works out, I think. And also, one of the big things that have really come out so far is veteran. The veterans are back, the Skellige Tursak veterans, and oh boy, have they really come back. I mean, there's been some tiny tweaks here and there, and they've just wham, you know. So the veterans, they boost, they strengthen all veterans wherever they are. But now the Beastmasters are now Tursak Beastmasters, so they get buffed. And you've also got the Tursak Archers, the 8 strength that does 1 damage to 3 units. They're now Tursak units. The Clan Brokvar Hunters are now Tursak Hunters, so they'll get buffed as well. You know, it's just really powerful. East Tursak is a very strong leader now, just because veterans, you know, they now boost these other cards as well as being soldiers. Okay, so these 2 small changes means that it's a really powerful deck. It looks like it might be too powerful, and this is something which is very evident as soon as we went on. You've got Tursak, Veteran, then Battle Maiden. You can use Battle Maidens. You can actually resurrect, use Priestess of Freya, the veterans now. And all the while, this is boosting all your veterans, and then the Beastmasters end up being 5 or 6 strength by themselves, and then they spawn an 11 strength bear, so they're like 17 value just by themselves, these bronzes. It's quite ridiculous. Combine that with a Battle Maiden, or heaven forbid, a restored Battle Maiden. So it's an 8 strength Battle Maiden that pings a 5 strength Beastmaster, which had already spawned an 11, which pulls another 5 strength Beastmaster, which spawns an 11. This is something like a 26 strength bronze play. It's really quite ridiculous, and very strong. It's difficult. I mean, the same things for NECA Warriors, really. You know, you'll probably be using Artifact Compression, Muzzle. You won't be able to use Mandrake on them because they're a bit strong for that. Maybe, you know, Vandergriff's Blade or something is what is used against me. But a really strong deck that's really hard to deal with, and it's not even refined yet. So CD Projekt Red have got to look out for those veterans and sort of like probably change the Beastmasters quite a bit, I think anyway. And then we've got some smaller changes, but I think this one will make a big impact, especially for beginners. Commander's Horn, for instance, it boosts 5 units by, instead of 4, it's 3 now. So it went from a 20 strength card to a 15. Now 15 for a silver is probably about average. It's nothing massively special anymore, and you do need 5 units lined up. So I mean, I think Commander's Horn is going to fall out of fashion a little bit with things like, you know, John Natalis and stuff like that. It may have been because of S&E being able to reuse it all the time, but you know, it's now just a 15 strength silver, which is not as powerful as, you know, the best silvers out there. So probably fall out of fashion. And the next small thing is that a lot of these create cards or tutors and stuff like that. So you got the Dwarven Agitators, the Alvin Scout, the Slave Masters, these kind of things which pull other cards and just sort of create other cards. So it's like a little midway between other things. Most of these have gone down to 1 strength now. So the examples I gave, Dwarven Agitators, Alvin Scouts, and Slave Masters, they're all 1 strength that spawn another unit. So that is a considerable, you know, strength removal from those particular cards, which will make a small impact on the game. The next thing is also quite a small thing, but in Skellige we used to have the Svalblod tag, and this has been removed and we believe changed for the Cultist tag. This is for 2 reasons. We saw some new cards which seem to be like Cultists of Svalblod, but they also wanted to clarify that Svalblod is not actually a clan. And that, I mean, I'm quite a fanatic of Gwent and Witcher, but even I was confused about Svalblod. So yeah, it's now Cultist tag instead of Svalblod, so there's less confusion about Ankret, Dimun, Heimei, and Svalblod. Sounds like a clan, but it's not. So it's now Cultist tag. And the other thing that I want to talk about is Restore. It's very simple. It's been changed slightly. It now resurrects a unit. It's 8 strength, same as before, but it now adds Doomed to that particular card, so you can't reuse. I think I already mentioned this, but it means that they're implementing and experimenting with this. The engine is there, the code is there ready to utilize this type of technology, so we may see more of that in the future. And it's a nice little answer to restore being quite powerful, being able to reuse that. Now you can't. So that's the overarching changes that I really wanted to talk about. We can go through these, individually if you just want to know. I'll put the link in the video description. But I want to talk about my overarching feelings so far. It's been about 5 hours, which is not massively long by any means. Everyone's playing like interesting decks. They're being greedy. They're not doing overall removal and stuff. Apart from I did get 6 Alzors in. But I am quite liking it. I like the flavour that's come back. I think the answers for spies are good. I'm worried about the Beastmaster veterans. I mean, now generally speaking, the way I imagine the meta to go, if that doesn't get changed, if it rolls out and the Beastmasters are like this, I think they're going to be very strong, really quite strong. But I also think that you can tech against them a little bit. But I think Nilfgaard Spies, which hasn't been nerfed, while Dwarfs has been nerfed, Nilfgaard Spies has remained exactly the same. So I think that's probably got going to be one of the topper decks, because while this Beastmaster Veteran is quite powerful, Nilfgaard Spies are also quite powerful, but they have Vicovaro medics. So when everyone's spending all their time using veterans and buffing up the guys, you can just sneak in halfway through and steal a lot of value that they've worked for, that you haven't, and also deny it them. So I feel like Nilfgaard Spies is the place to be. Like Treason's changed, so it actually you select 2 adjacent units of the opponent's side and they have to duel each other. Kind of like your Vef, but they have to be adjacent, and that can gain a lot of value if you've got any movement tech, which Nilfgaard really hasn't, but I'm sure there's something that can help. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a good, fun time, and I do believe this particular patch is not over yet. They're going to probably be switching and tweaking some of these numbers, so hopefully we get a really good thing. I feel like they've done a great job of listening to us with what we've seen here. Obviously they haven't put any patch notes up, which is the negative on them, but thank you for listening to this video. I hope you enjoyed it.